Hey, welcome to HR Famous, brought to you by Kinetics, the leading RPO recruiting firm for growth companies. Named by HRO Today as the top midsize RPO provider, Kinetics uses its unique skill-based recruiter model to deliver on RPO engagements, allowing them to customize scope to meet your unique hiring needs. If you have recruiting challenges and want to consider RPO as a solution, give Kinetics a call. Find them online at kineticshr.com. HR Famous is also brought to you by HRU Tech, a contingent staffing firm specializing in engineering, IT, and technically related placements across multiple industries. If you're looking for technical talent or searching for a career, look no further than HRU Tech. Find them online at hrutech.com and call them today.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of HR Famous. I'm the hostess with the mostest today. Is hostess, is that female or male? I don't know. I'm the host.
What are your pronouns?
Well, we're going to talk about that. And as you hear, my guest host, I'm -1 today, but I have one of the normal ones back. JLee, how are you doing?
I'm good. I like being called one of the normal ones. I am normal.
I should say regular, right?
I like
we're
normal,
all the
though.
regular, normal. Because Katie is abnormal and he's not with us, and that's because we brought on a third wheel of this trio today, and so we'll bring her in as well. But first, as we usually do, I want to start off by making fun of myself. So our good friend Katie sent over a tweet from the university, or no, actually Georgia State University, and it was about pronouns, and it was, what pronouns do you prefer? And I like to think of myself as like an in the know kind of person for my age and being a Gen Xer. And I'm like, yeah, I'm totally down with pronouns in terms of like, they, for those people that don't fit into she or he. And so I'm like, yeah, I've gotten myself to that point. Now, Jessica, you're younger than me by a couple of years. The other pronouns and I know we shared this like through text exchange and stuff like this. There's a bunch of pronouns on here that I have no idea what the hell they are, or what they mean, and I'm confused by it. And I've heard of some, others I have no idea. It's like co-n-e-y, which I think is you. I don't know. Z, yo, z, v. Like, JLee, help me with this. I don't understand. Like, if somebody comes to me and they're like, no, I'm not a she or he or a they, I'm a Z. I don't know how to react. I don't know what to do. I know that's old. I know that's old, but like I'm confused by that.
I know. So here's where I am with this. Like, if you don't identify as a he, a she, what is your option that you're left with? They. Them. Yeah. And I just feel like you're just left with this other option that feels like it's what you get. It is what it is. You get what you get. And I feel like if I were in that situation, like, I don't just want to be a they or them. Like, I want something that is ownable, that feels me, that I'm not relegated to something else. And so this gets tricky though, right? Because like you have a drop down of 13 different sets of pronouns. And like some of these are new. Some of them have been around for a few decades, but it's some like
been around for like literally hundreds of years.
Yeah. Which is super fascinating, right? Like the pronoun thing isn't new. But I get it. It's like, you don't want to be a they or them. Like, you want something that's ownable, that feels right for you, that you've not been relegated to some other status. And so, at a certain point, we're just going to have to get on board. That drop down list is going to be long of all these pronouns.
And there was an option to actually put your own in, which I think is classic, because that's going to be used. But so there's a part of me that I wanted the definition of each, right? Like, okay, if you're not a he or she or they, what is Z? What is that? Who are you then? What's the definition of that? There's something internal to my HR male old dude that I needed to have a definition. So I started like deep diving on the internet on these pronouns things and trying to get sites that really supportive of this so I could figure out what is this really. And there was one that was like, oh, they like to define themselves as like aliens. And I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I understand if you don't want to be a he or she or they, but when you stop being a part of the human race, can we now say no? Can we say no then?
So I just think we're overthinking it. We can't overthink it. That's the thing. Like, you're going to choose a different pronoun. You have something else you prefer to be called, and it is what it is. Like, we're just going to have to let go, just go with it, and just not overthink it. Like, we can't all neatly fit into a little box is really where it is at the end of the day.
Okay,
Not in a box.
I can. It's a bigger box, but I can fit into it. All right. I'm going to introduce our guest and our third person that we're bringing in here, and we'll let her tell us her pronouns. So Laurie Ruettimann is coming on, and she is a friend of ours. She's been a friend of mine for a long time. Former rehabbed HR lady, also former FOT, Fistful of Talent writer, OG. What number, Laura? Do you remember?
I don't remember, but I want to say it's before a lot of these other scrubs that you got on board, so I'll take it.
Yeah,
there are a bunch of scrubs.
Wow. I'm so glad Katie's not on right now. You'd be just distraught that we're calling our writing staff scrub.
I mean, it's out of love. It's out of love. Yeah.
Laurie, welcome to the HR Famous Show. First time, long time, I'm sure, for you, right?
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super stoked to be here. And my pronouns are she, her, hers. And honestly, I don't like people enough to care. So whatever they want to be called, I'm like, hell yeah. Because as long as we shorten this conversation, the better. Like, you want to be a Zay or whatever? Yes, because then we'll be done sooner talking. So that's my status on that.
I always go back to like my grandfather would want to punch me in the face if I said, "Hey, this is Laurie, and Zer name is, or Zer favorite color is," and then he'd look at me like, "Can we start a war just so you can have a real problem? I'm going to punch you in the face." I
know, but these people are long gone, and the world turns, right? We love them, but the world moves on, and so I'm okay with that.
Yeah. No, and again, I understand. Again. Right. I like
for sure. Do I think someone who identifies as an alien is an easy thing to digest? No. So I'm just not going to think about it. I'm going to go, that's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Jabba the Hutt. Didn't like anything around, the Star Wars thing when they had what's the thing that like ran around with the big floppy ears? Like, I'm done with that one.
Are you asking me to weigh in on Star Wars?
No, but I'm assuming that's like an alien person should be all in on Star Wars, right? Yeah, anyways. Sure. Okay. Laurie, we brought you on because you have a book.
I do.
The book title is called Betting on You, and I make fun of it's really about strategies to do sports gambling at work, right? It's betting on you.
Sure it is. Yeah. It's about
and not working.
Yeah.
Tell us what Betting on You is, or what's it about? Why did you write it? All of that.
Thanks, Timmy, and thanks, JLee, for having me today. We'll pretend like this is just an ordinary podcast, right? It's really great to be here. I wrote this book because when I worked as a professional in human resources, I was lost. I was alone. I didn't feel like I had the capacity for self-leadership. I didn't invest in my well-being. I gave up on learning anything new. I was just like, all right, I'm an HR lady. I'm going to be this forever. And I didn't take risks. And I really stagnated. And I found myself growing old, growing cranky, not taking care of myself. And so like any good writer, I wrote the book that I would have wanted back then. And Betting on You is a guide to help people really rethink their relationship with work, whether you're an employee, an HR professional, or a leader. So Timmy, I wrote this book for you out of love because I know you're going through some career transitions.
For sure. But you didn't write it for HR. I mean, you wrote it for everybody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was being an former kind of rehabbed HR lady. I knew that was something specifically you wanted to go after, making sure it wasn't just, hey, I don't want to write another HR book or a recruiter book or whatever that might be.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. But one of the things that's very interesting to me is that HR has this phenomenon of forgetting that they're employees too. Like they get a paycheck every 2 weeks. They go through the same things that every other employee goes through. And they do these things like, how do I fix the employee experience? And it's like, you know what, lady, what bugs you? Fix that. Fix that thing, and it's going to have downstream effects for everybody. So if you like that simplistic approach to the world, you're going to love Betting on You.
They forget about being an employee until it comes to benefits and pay. Then all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, everybody really wants 100% whatever.
Pet
like, no, you
parents,
do.
all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I remember getting really mad about the average merit increase only being like 3.2%. And like it affected me personally at that point. But every other time I was a thought leader and executive and blah, 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 but I really feel as if HR professionals, when they do forget that their employees, do a disservice to themselves, right? They operate in this really bifurcated way where they're not quite employees and they're not quite part of the organization. It's unhealthy. So if you work, you're a worker. And that's what this book is all about, really rethinking your relationship with work.
Yeah. And go ahead, JLee.
Oh, so Laura, I was curious. So like, this is the book that you wish you had and that you read when you were an HR lady who was on the verge of, or maybe already burnt out at that point. But like, I'm curious, like, when you look at what's out there, like what makes this different? I mean, there's so many books out there, right? About the world of work, like your career and all, like fill in the blanks. So what makes this different from your perspective?
It's a really good question. I think there are two kinds of books out there. There are ones that are very case study driven, that want to give you things very conceptually. And then there are these other books that are like workbooks and guides and kind of spiritual and kind of philosophical. I'm just here to tell stories and I'm here to tell the truth. And the one thing I did in this book is make sure that I didn't put myself on a pedestal as someone who has answers. I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not even Mel Robbins, right? I'm just Laurie Ruettimann from the Northwest side of Chicago, living in North Carolina, who had a terrible job. And I want to speak about it honestly. And I think I've done that and balanced it with stories from friends, from clients, anonymizing them as much as possible, but really trying to be honest about what the world of work is like. We have all of these books about the 21st century of HR and the 21st century of work, and those are great. And then we have these workbook guides where you're supposed to meditate, do a detox, drink a lot of water, track your weight, and ride a Peloton. I don't really advocate for any of that. And I own a Peloton, right? I just do whatever you want, but be thoughtful about the way you do it. Have a real good plan in terms of the way you manage your career. And that's what this book is all about.
# Team Cody. All right. We're all Pelotoners, right?
I'm Dennis Morton.
Oh my gosh, I did my first dentist ride last night and I didn't like it. I wasn't Team Cody.
Can I tell you?
No, I tend to love all the English instructors. Like, so by the way, Laurie, this is totally on par for our podcast because we went right from talking about your book to let's talk about Peloton some more.
Well, I have to say I like Dennis because I took his reggae ride and I thought this is going to be terrible, but I just needed some different like music, not some it's music, and it was terrific. It was great. And so now I'm like, what else has Dennis got besides really great abs and a nice smile? So I like his taste in music.
That's true. Nice smile. Nice smile. Good hair too.
Wow.
For sure.
I don't even notice how they look.
That's
I notice how they push me and make me feel. I did take an Outcast ride by a white dude the other day.
That was Dennis.
I felt like I got culturally appropriated in the worst way. Like he was so into it. And I was like, dude, calm down.
He really is into his music. He's I won't be like a stalker fangirl here, but he's definitely into his music.
All right. Okay. So Team Dennis.
Laurie, Dennis. Yes.
You've been writing this book for a long time, just being friends because we've been talking about it. And I think before the pandemic started, that you were writing this book, and it just so happened that the pandemic hit, and then there's probably not a better time because literally we would talk about like we're going through ultra low unemployment and people are just stupid with their career, they're changing jobs left and right. No one really had issues because there were so many jobs, and all of a sudden now it's like people are a little panicky about their career, their job. It seems like timing wise, it couldn't be better.
I hate that. I know. I mean, it's just like,
we hate it at the same time though. But it's not like you threw this together in the last 6 months. Like this thing was already written 6 months ago and going through edits and design and all this stuff. Like that's how books get published. Like, I mean, what is it about our time right now going through a pandemic that makes it the right time for this book?
Great question. I really think that this time that we're in COVID, the economic contraction, a lot of the reckoning we're having around racial justice, feminism, all of it kind of coming to a boil has taught us that systems and the system of work We're not built for employees. Before we could fool ourselves because we were getting a good paycheck and a bonus. And now we've truly seen where good companies have done good and where the rest have just kind of fallen apart. So I think there's a more honest conversation that we're having about work. And beyond that, I also think there's this moment where COVID is pushing us to look at our values. We're not surviving a pandemic just to live like we did in 2019. I know everything about my life is different and will continue to be different. I'm much more values driven. I'm really thinking about relationships and community. And these things that are important to me now are going to affect the kind of work that I choose going forward. So we're all having these moments, these epiphanic moments. And I think this book really ties into that. If you're really rethinking who you are and what you want in the world, betting on you is a great place to start. One of the basic premises of the book is that you don't fix work by instituting programs and policies. You fix it by fixing yourself. Fixing work is an inside out job. And if you do a good job of working on you, it doesn't really matter what's happening at work because you can go home with integrity and still feel pretty good about your life.
I always felt that way about Sean Anker, which I love his stuff. He's the happy guy, right? He's all about happiness and happiness research, all that stuff. But I always felt like it was a little like when he come in and say, oh, here's how you make your employees happy. I'm like, wait a minute, you're not making anybody happy. They're either preconditioned to be happy or they're in a part of their life where they can be happy or they're working on it. But me as HR guy is never going to make somebody happy. No. I mean, maybe for a little bit I could say, oh, here's a raise, right? Or whatever, here's better benefits. And they have this small little, blip. But if they're in depression, it's not going to make them happy. And so I totally agree with that. I think I'm really interested to see whether that is mid 2021, end of 2021, 2022, where this reckoning happens where those companies that learned what you're saying, that, hey, this is how we should actually, have work designed or whatever it might be. And those who think we're just going to go back to the old way, and talent is going to take this very different path in the woods, right? They're going to come to that reckoning where they go, wait a minute, no, we're not. That sucked.
Yeah, that's right.
A year and a half ago sucked at work. We found a better way. How do we get back there? Jessica, do you think, do you see that happening in an office, white collar environment, especially, that those companies that want to continue traditional kind of ways of work that we thought of over the last decades, I just feel like there's a reckoning coming to them.
Welcome to the Hire Her podcast, where women in talent call all the shots. We know, another recruiting podcast, just what the industry needs. Okay, but hear us out. You ever spend hours sourcing that perfect candidate, but they end up ghosting you harder than your hinge date? Or finally, you get that hiring manager feedback, only for them to, of course, say, can we see more candidates? Lame, right? But let's talk about what's really lame in the industry. How is it that 65% of recruiters are brilliant women, yet most of the decision makers look like a convention for middle-aged dudes named Brad?
That's where we come in. Hire Her isn't just another podcast about hiring trends you already heard 50 times this week. We're here to elevate women in talent, share their career journeys, and make sure they take the lead. Because let's face it, if recruiting is the backbone of every company, why are we still fighting for a seat at the table? So whether you're a recruiter, a talent leader, or just someone trying to swim through the sausage fest of TA leadership, we got you, girl. Welcome to Hire Her, the recruiting podcast where women's voices aren't just heard, but they're leading the conversation.
So subscribe now, because middle management Brad sure as hell isn't going to do it for you.
Yeah, I mean, right now, especially in white collar environments where people, don't have to be frontline in a space, everyone's virtual, the old ways of trying to either institutionalize or make things through programmatic solves, create a sense of fun, create a sense of happy, call those things culture if you want to. None of that works, right? The programs don't work. Your lunchroom with the ping pong table and the free food, that's not going to work. And it's what it boils down to right now is a manager or leader being really good at that, having those authentic relationships with their people and helping their people be better versions of themselves, to Laurie's point. And it's if you can't figure out that as the solution right now, the way that you tackle things, you're going to go back to this, semi-normal-ish existence later, post-vaccines and whatever, and realize wait a minute, these things that we were doing before, they didn't work then. They're not working, as we come back. And I think that's right. There is going to be some, I don't know if it's a reckoning, but there's going to be something like people are going to be forced to confront that reality.
I love,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I love the word reckoning, because I think there may indeed be this split in the way that work happens. And I hope that the split really identifies who's great, like what organizations get it right, and what organizations suck. And people start to really feel empowered to make some good choices. One of the things we don't talk about enough as HR professionals is the fact that employees are truly consumers of work. In any economy, they can make a choice. And it's only through this weird codependency that we've created that all these workers feel like, oh, I can't possibly quit my job. I can't leave, but they can absolutely quit. They can absolutely leave. And I think more and more with COVID, the moment they can, they absolutely will. So I'm interested in seeing the choices that employees make going forward. And I'm looking forward to the day that people stop saying, oh, I can't quit my job. There's no way, because maybe you can't quit it today, but you can start to work on a plan to quit it in a month or in 6 months. I talked to Bob Sutton. He's a professor at Stanford, the author of The No Asshole Rule. Can I say that on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great book, important book in the world of human resources. And one of the things he taught me over the years is that if you walk into a job and it feels toxic, that's because it is, and you need to quit. Because everybody had a first day at work where they walked in and they were like, oh my God, this place sucks. And they made a choice to get on board the suck train, and they never left. And it's more than likely you're going to be like them than you're going to change anything. So if you feel that sense that this place is terrible, they don't care about me, like JLee said, they don't connect with me on a human level, it's time to go. And again, maybe it's not possible tomorrow, but no employment is permanent. This isn't, a communist environment, not yet, that we're living in, right? So you can work wherever you want to work. That is possible. You have choice. You have agency.
It was day 4 when I was working at the health system, running talent acquisition, when I had a peer walk in to give me a warning. And the warning was he had noticed that I had left the day before at 5:00, and that he was telling me, look, just so you understand, no one leaves until the CEO leaves. And I was like, what? Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
That had to be pre-Glassdoor, though, right, Tim? Because you couldn't have done that research to know.
But it was early. It was early Glassdoor, but no. But even through the process, I had asked, like, "Hey, I have kids and I coach them in sports, and and the CHRO was like, oh no, because again, he was trying to make this change, right, to culture, like, oh no, yeah, we totally back you with that. You can do this, and yet you would sit there and watch the CEO walk out to his car, get in his car, and then all of a sudden it was ding, ding, all the executive lights would start to go out, and they would.
That's crazy. But by the way, like Laurie, I like the dialogue around choice. And I think that like people do, I think to a certain degree, organizations, HR people do think about choice, but it's really limited. Like I hope people choose to come work here and it's a single moment or an event. And we think about choice as just that, like they're choosing to work here, as opposed to like, it's a choice literally every single day to walk back into the door, to come back and keep coming back. Like it is a daily intentional choice that you want people to be making. And then like the other thing is like, it's not just a choice to come in, like you want people to choose to like contribute a lot, to contribute greatly and like do their best. And so I think like the conversation around like people being consumers of work is spot on, but it's truly like it's an everyday choice that people are making. We don't think about it that way.
No, you're absolutely right. But what if we did? I think we in human resources could start thinking about it like that. And it may change our perspective of our function of what we do for a living. When you start to think about having choice, having agency, and someone comes in and tells you to, institute a new Weight Watchers program or do the thing you don't want to do. I mean, I've got a million things in my career that people have asked me to do. You can start to think, I can say yes, I can say no, I can say yes, but, or no, and, or a whole configuration of that. But I can start to be an active part of my own career rather than just saddled with this job. But, part of the discussion and part of what I write about in my book is that so many people in the workforce are saddled with legitimate debt. I mean, they come in, they're saddled with student loan debt or medical debt or whatever it is, and you don't feel like you have choice. Everything feels so drastic. And they've done studies on what debt and poverty can do to you physically. So it starts to attack your well-being, and it just becomes this cycle of suck. I mean, that's not in my book, but it really is a cycle of suck, where you're just weighed down with all the things in the world, and you bring all of that to your job, and your job becomes this one thing that maybe isn't so terrible. And when that's terrible, the whole thing is a mess. So I want to de-escalate our connection to work. You know, FBI agents practice this thing called, I'm drawing a blank.
It's a really good thing.
No.
Yeah.
FBI agents practice this thing called professional detachment. Like, this is core and critical to their job. And so they go to work and they love it. They're good at it. They have a work ethic, but they are taught that you are not your job. You have an identity outside of the FBI. And I just think that's such a good, interesting way to think about the world of work. And in fact, the more of an identity you have outside of work, you know, someone who is part of our community, a parent, a loved one, the better you're going to be at work. And then when work sucks, it's not going to tear your whole world apart. So
I tell people that, Laurie, all the time when like I interview somebody for like to work with my own company, I go, I don't know if you'll love this. And I'm not asking you to love it. It's a job.
yeah.
I hope there's things in your life that this job will actually give you the time and the money and the resources to be able to go out that you do love, right? Maybe it's rescuing cats or dogs or fostering or whatever you are into. That's awesome. Now, if you love your job, like I love my job, that bonus, that's
For
cool.
sure. Yes.
But I just
absolutely.
think over the last decade, we've sold this pile of shit to people saying you have to love what you do. Love your job and you'll never work another day in your life. And I'm like, that is such a mind fuck. I can't even stand it.
And it's really hard to love your job and have like a real interesting relationship with your job when part of your brain is saddled with debt and chaos and learned helplessness and all these things that happen in our lives. How can you expect to show up to work and do a good job and really be engaged with the work that you need to do? I mean, it's just such a interesting world that we're living in right now. You know, I can't tell you how many HR ladies I talk to who are consumed with this idea of burnout and performance, and yet they're getting 4 hours of sleep a night. And I'm like, nobody takes over the world on 4 hours of sleep. You don't do it. Like, you do it for a short period of time, maybe when you're raising your kids or maybe when you're cramming for your MBA or whatever it is. That is not a sustainable way to live. And yet we live like this all the time. It makes no sense. So if you truly love your job, you almost owe it to yourself to do the things in your own life to get performance ready. You don't see Tom Cruise sleeping 4 hours a night and then going and doing a great movie. That guy's getting great nutrition, exercise, movement, sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber. I mean, who knows what Tom Cruise is doing? He looks so terrific, right? But he's showing up personally for his professional job. I'm so inspired by that, but maybe not Tom Cruise.
So in the book, I know you talk about burnout. What are those other things, right, that people can do to make sure if they're in that position where either they're starting to feel like they're getting burned out on their job or they're already there, you know, and they just can't look at themselves in the mirror when they get up in the morning? And what are those things? What are some of those strategies?
Yeah, one that I really like, that's actually something that I just teach everybody, especially my coaching clients, is that your personal life goes on your professional calendar first. Like, without question. And it doesn't have to be super detailed, but the time you block off for your personal life, the time you sleep, and I have 4 buckets actually that I teach around physical well-being, mental well-being, putting a little slack on your calendar, and also time during your week to learn. If you can start to nail some of those buckets and then move your professional life around those buckets, you can actually get somewhere feeling good about who you are and what you do. But the problem is so many of us feel like we're victims of the Outlook calendar, right? Well, we get paid. When someone puts something on our calendar, we have to do it. And the answer is you don't have to do that. Or you can be proactive and start to block off even just a little bit of time. I'm not saying block off 8 hours a day because you got to work. But if you don't have 15 minutes in your calendar to pee when you work from home, you are doing your life wrong. So building in a little bit of slack and physically building it into your day is really important. So I do a lot of work and recommend a lot of calendar management. I think that's the only way to live. And I know this because I've lived the other way and it was terrible. It's just terrible.
It's awesome that you say that. I'm actually fairly decent at blocking my calendar, but I'm really bad at then letting people take up part of my blocks.
Right? Boundaries. I mean, that's part 2. Yeah.
But I actually put the actual, I actually go in my Outlook and we'll block off time and say, this is what this is for. And then someone will go, but can we meet at 2 on Friday? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
There's a time to grind, and then there's a time to take your PTO. The other thing I talk about in this book is how many people schedule PTO, even working from home, right? And don't take it, or take it for reasons other than their own well-being. They're taking PTO to go to the park with their kids, but it's like a kid endeavor and it's not something for them. And I get that completely. But if your PTO is burned for other reasons other than the things you want to do, what's the point of even taking PTO? I don't blame people for coming back to work and being excited then to do work, because they've just been doing stuff they didn't want to do with their time off. So I think really being responsible for some of our choices, our boundaries, Tim, is really important. So maybe turn down that 2 p.m. meeting.
Right. I read a story today, and it was like this one of these little parable things. And it was basically the guys think of your life as 5 balls juggling, right? You got to keep them all up in the air, right? Okay. It's your job, it's your love life, it's your spirituality, it's whatever that is, right? There's 5 things. I can't remember. I wish I could, because it's important, right? For the story. No, but anyways.
Physical health, family, friends.
Yes, physical health, family, friends. And he's like, now imagine that the ball for your job is a rubber ball. So if it lands on the ground, it bounces right back up to you, right? Yeah. And you can keep going. The other 4 are glass. And so it's you can let the job fall and you're going to pick it back up. But these other things, that every time you drop them, there's some real damage done, right?
Mm-hmm. It's really good. I wish I wrote that. I wish that was in Betting on You. That'd be awesome.
It's at page 7.
Yeah. It'll be the revised version that comes out paperback. Yeah.
It's actually depressing though. I can't even juggle 2 ball. Literally, if you have tried juggling, it is not easy. The 2 ball rhythm, I can't even get 3 or 4 in. So I'm screwed. Is basically.
By the way, I can't juggle, so I can't tell you.
Hard.
The Disney Channel taught me that when I was 15 years old, and some summer I was sitting at home bored, and some show was on.
I want to talk about juggling because the most interesting person I ever worked with was a cosmetic chemist who ended up leaving the company and starting this media empire about telling people what's really in beauty products. But anyway, his hobby was running marathons backwards, juggling. And he's done this it is weird, but he's so he's a foster for cats and dogs. I mean, he's a really super interesting guy, but he is never not in motion. And he's a terrific juggler, by the way. He's not just juggling during the Chicago Marathon with 2 or 3. He's got 4 or 5. He's a real juggler. I mean, it's real interesting. So anyway.
Real interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to
interesting in air quotes.
I'm going to get us out of here. Before we leave, before we kind of get into our little final question, tell people where they can find the book, when it's going live. They can actually pre-order, but when all the details.
Thank you, Timmy. Everybody can go to bettingonyoubook.com. That's probably the easiest place to go. And you'll get forwarded to a page where you can get the book everywhere books are sold or streamed. And the cool thing about this experience, Tim, is I got to do my own narration for the audiobook. So that'll be up on Audible and Apple Books and all that kind of good stuff. So that was a cool career moment for me. I was super excited to do that. And it's out on January 12th. My birthday is January 8th. And so I've been telling my family that if they love me even a little bit, just a tiny bit, that would be a perfect day to buy the book. So, but I'll take a pre-order any day. So thanks again for having me as a guest. And it was really good to see both of you. JLee, Timmy, you got such a good show. Thank you for having me on.
Well, I know you also have podcasts. Where can people find that?
Am I allowed to talk about one thing? Now I feel spoiled. I feel so excited.
Yeah. People want more of Laurie Ruettimann. That's what we know.
Nobody ever said that in the world. All right. So I've got this podcast called Punk Rock HR as an homage to back in the day when I used to work in HR and people made fun of me, and that felt great. And so now
back when Jessica was editing FOT and she was fresh out of college, right?
Number 2. I was number 2.
They were calling me Punk Rock HR when I was an intern in human resources in 1995. That's how old
Because
I
you had
am. So.
one tattoo?
Yeah, and a shaved head and piercings, and I wore Doc Martens. And they said, "Who the hell do you think you are, punk rock HR?" And I told that story to KD in like 2007, and he said, "If you don't buy that domain, I'm going to buy it and sell it back to you for $1,000." So this is all Chris Dunn's fault. I'm glad he's not here.
All right, I'm going to get you guys out on this. I'm obsessed with one thing right now, and it's the vaccine. And I'm
That's a
obsessed.
lie. You're obsessed with TikTok, so you're obsessed with two things.
I am obsessed with TikTok.
Yeah.
But I'm also obsessed with the vaccine and more of the black market of the vaccine. Like I think there's going to be there's already a black market in China. There's a black market in India. And I know in the US they'll have one as well. So my question to you guys on the way out, how much would you pay to get the vaccine before you actually legally should be getting it?
Oh, see, I really want it. I did a quiz to find out where in line I would be based on like my health age, et cetera. And I'm like second to the last in line.
Like 10 years from now.
Yes. And I wanted ASAP. So I'm either going to have to sign up for some like trial or some, like, I don't know, like a lottery ticket, something. I don't know. I'm willing to pay. I truly am though. Like I want it more than
how much?
People.
How much would you pay? $1,000?
I was actually going to say I would pay $1,000 at least.
Okay. Laurie, how much would you pay for a vaccine?
I wouldn't pay for it actually, because I think therapeutics and wearing the mask is actually better. I'll get the vaccine when I get it, but they don't really know if the vaccine protects people. They really don't really understand the mechanism around it. So I'm willing to let other people be experimented on and be second to last in line.
I feel like that answer comes from Ken, who's like the ultimate engineer scientist type dude.
Swiss cheese, though. It's Swiss cheese. You got to do all the things.
You do. And I'm going to wear the mask and be safe with that, Timmy.
I actually read an article that India, like they're doing the AstraZeneca vaccine and it's only like $8 a dose. And so they're preparing for this influx of tourism that people are going to come to get the vaccine. And you've been to India, you've been to Mumbai, and how, it's not like the cleanest place in the world. All right. So that's it, folks. That's what we got. Go get the book, Betting on You, January 8th, Laurie Ruettimann's birthday. We're going to make it a bestseller just on that day, and in terms of the pre-buys. Jessica Lee, I will see you soon, probably next week again for another podcast. So for Jessica Lee, Laurie Ruettimann, I'm Tim Sackett. That's HR Famous for the week. See you later, kids.